But again, with the speed and the ability to get a lot of resources online quickly, I mean, it's been indispensable. I mean, you know, I was watching the tweets you were filing, you know, while people were getting their heads bashed in Oakland. I mean, you cannot compete with that. Even TV cannot compete with that.
In recent years, social media has become crucial to the development of social movements like the Occupy Wall Street movement in America and the Arab Spring in the Middle East. Our project asks the question of whether the use of social media in social movements is effective for long-term social and political change. To answer this question, we examined the Mexican social movement hashtag YoSoy132.
The social movement began in response to the presidential campaign of Enrique Peña Nieto, who had served as a governor to the state of Mexico for 6 years.
This candidate was supported by rich Mexican elites who promoted deregulation and economic policies like NAFTA, which hinders the lower class and benefits the wealthy. In addition, this candidate's campaign received extremely favorable coverage by the media, which greatly affected public opinion.
In Mexico, 95% of television broadcasting is controlled by two companies, Televisa and Azteca. The journalist Naro Villamil reported that Peña Nieto had given millions to Televisa in advertising contracts to guarantee maximum exposure on the network's programming. The monopoly of the media in Mexico by these two large companies has been manipulated by political candidates like Peña Nieto. In May 2012, Peña Nieto visited the Iberoamericano University in Mexico City, but he was greeted with jeers and taunts by the audience. He fled the event among a booing crowd.
¡Asesino! 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 ¡Asesino!
To not tarnish his image, Peña Nieto told the media that the crowd was not actually made up of students, but they were hired by his political opponents to cause a scene.
In response to this inaccurate news report, 131 Iberoamericano students posted a YouTube video showing their identification cards. This video went viral.
Número de cuenta 173348-0.
Talía C, 1640-772.
Hashtag YoSoy132 became a trending topic on Twitter, representing each supporter in solidarity as the 132nd student protester. Spreading through Facebook and Twitter, a protest was organized in Mexico City against the biased media coverage of the presidential election, the corruption in the Mexican political system, and Peña Nieto himself. Over 40,000 protesters marched on the streets of Mexico City, whose supporters included university students, farmers, and unionized workers of all ages. Protests spread across Mexico, and over 20 cities began to hold demonstrations. Though the movement protested against the candidate, Enrique Peña Nieto was selected to the presidential office in 2012. However, vote buying, bribery, and voter fraud was reported across Mexico, a country with a history of unfair elections. Social media was used by the movement to bypass the biased media and create its own headlines, both nationally and internationally, shedding light on the serious issues of electoral fraud, media bias, and corruption by important political figures like the current president of Mexico.
Hashtag YoSoy132 may have failed in the face of a corrupt political system, but the movement was successful in creating a culture among the youth that were politically aware and took action against the shortcomings of Mexican democracy.
This law seems to target what our president's headache seems to be since the beginning of his regime: social networks and the way we organize through them. This law also restores the status of the preponderant corporation Televisa, which for decades have been the main ally of the ruling government party.
The hashtag YoSoy132 movement remains active today, especially through the YouTube channel YoSoyRed TV, which challenges contemporary issues in politics like a proposed Televisa bill, which would give the government control over television broadcasts and internet censorship in Mexico.